Hello, everyone.
Hello, hello.
Hey, Toronto. You guys all have a good lunch? I'm CCP Fozzie.
I'm CCP Lebowski.
Yeah, good class for Lebowski.
No, all for me.
We're presenting the EVE Development Variety Hour. So this is going to be a presentation that goes over a number of different topics across EVE development, sort of collecting some stuff that has already happened, some stuff that's in the near future, and some stuff that maybe comes beyond that. So we're going to start off by looking back a bit on the invasion expansion, so the TRIGLAVIAN invasions, war decks, UI improvements, special focus on the agency. We're going to then talk about some near future changes, a few things that are coming pretty soon and that'll be on the test servers for you guys to play with in the next very short while. And then we're going to have a special section with a peek at some unconfirmed prototypes, some things that we can't promise, but we want to start getting your feedback. These are things that we're experimenting with, and we really want to hear what you think about them, hear what kind of stuff you like and don't like about them, and get your help testing them soon. So we want to start discussing them here. But again, want to set expectations. Those are things that are potential future, not guaranteed. But let's start by talking a bit about the invasion expansion.
Yes, so one of the big features of the invasion expansion was the changes, the final part of a series of war declaration changes that we've been doing now for a little over half a year, I think it is. So we're just going to talk through a little bit of those to start with and what exactly those consisted of. Firstly, I just want to say a huge thanks to everyone who helped us by providing feedback and bug reports for this feature. We were really happy to be able to do this slowly over a number of months with feedback from the community and from the CSM. It's been really invaluable in shaping this feature into what it's become. So just a quick recap of what that consisted of. So in December last year, we changed we added war eligibility, the idea that to be eligible for warfare, you needed to have a structure. So we tied the structure system into the war system. And then in March, we did a series of bug fixes, series of loophole fixes to the war system, changed some ways that people could shrug off wars and avoid them.
And these were things that we definitely wouldn't have been able to do without all the bug reports people gave us.
Absolutely, yeah. So that really, really helped. And then in April, it was the removal of neutral remote reps in high security space. Yeah. And then, as we say, in May, this was our large series of changes that we made. So this was adding the concept of war headquarters. We improved mutual wars and removed them from the normal war system. We simplified the costs of warfare, and we made a huge swathe of UI improvements for the war system. So those were things like this page that we added. So wars, like a lot of long-standing features in EVE, older features, tend to be one of those systems that's very hidden, very behind the scenes, and doesn't really get explained or shown in game very well. So we were really keen when we got to do this iteration to bring a lot of that information into the game for you guys. So this is there for new players who are experiencing this system for the first time, and also providing information for any kind of person involved in the war system.
For many years, the only place where this information was available in the client was in the notification you get when you first start the war, and people had to rely on third-party websites. We absolutely love the EVE Uni Wiki, but as much as possible, you should be able to learn about how the game works from within the client. And that's something that we were doing with the agency, as well as with this new war homepage.
Absolutely. And this also led to what might hold the record for the largest tooltip in EVE Online. So we're very proud of that.
Explaining allies.
Yes, yes. So this was really good. We also, this was all part of an idea that we didn't want the first time people to experience wars to be someone killing you in high sec and you don't know why. So we did a lot of work to make sure that this stuff was clear to people. You have now this icon in the character selection screen that details what wars you're involved in to let you know. Just in the same way that we tell you whether you're in space to be careful when you're logging in. We also added this to the character sheet so you can see any aggressive wars you're involved in. And finally, we added this to the in-space UI as well. So anyone who's currently involved in wars, and they can see this in the space scene. This was, like I say, just really to try and make it really integrate into the client in a way that it wasn't before into the game. And we also finally added this little warning for undocking while during a war. Yeah, this was really good.
I really love the fact we're able to just like sneak in the golden rule of Eve into this as a reminder in case someone hasn't seen it already. You know, always a good idea to always fly ships you can afford to lose.
Yep, yeah. So that was really good. And then there was a few other kind of like ways that we integrated the new system into the existing into the existing UI. So for example, we did a slight polish on the war report where we added the HQ and made some changes to this top section. And then some housekeeping that we did as well. We moved the kill report section of the corp in the corp window from the war section to the home tab because it's really something that you refer to outside of wars. So yeah, so we after May we're now in what we'd probably call like a transition period for the wars, and this is because any new wars made after May require a HQ structure to be in HiSec, but there are still existing wars from before the change that are ongoing without HQs. So we've got some stats here. Some of these I think you'll have seen before from Berger, but we've got a few more for you as well. So as of Wednesday, when we took the data before we flew out here, there were 96 ongoing mutual wars. There were 112 wars ongoing from before the change that don't have HQs. Yep. And there were 272 wars with HQs existing on that day. So we are planning to phase out all these old wars that without HQs. Initially, we said that that would be at the end of July. We're just now aligning that with the intended release date for the closest release to that. And that's currently scheduled to be on August 13. So we'll make sure that we update all our documents and make sure you know this.
Yep. So if you have a war that's still running without an HQ, you can keep it running in that state until August 13th. But you're also welcome to let that war lapse and relaunch a new one ahead of time with the HQ, so you'll be ready for the transition.
That's right. And we actually, with the new system, allow you to spool up a war again with a HQ without any downtime in the war. So you can transition quite nicely from the old system to the new system there. So we've got some stats from this release now. So obviously this is about a month after the release now, so it's still very early on. But we have some interesting stats for you. Again, these are from Wednesday of this week before we flew out. So we have, like we said, 272 wars existing with HQ structures. Those wars have only 70 HQs in total, unique HQs, which seems to suggest that at least now the prevailing strategy is to bunch your wars together on one structure. So
of course we gave people the option. You can either spread out your wars across multiple structures. If you have multiple structures, you can have like a different war HQ for each war, or you can bunch them all together. And so far at least, people seem to be preferring bunching them all together, and we'll see how that changes in the future, whether it stays the same. We like to give people the flexibility whenever possible, and it's cool to see how people have been using it. And
maybe that will have changed after yesterday.
Yeah,
people will be less likely to put wars in the same structure. There is one structure right now, or at
on
least
Wednesday.
On Wednesday, that was hosting 44 wars at once.
It's not the one that everyone was fighting over yesterday.
No.
So it's not the one. This is that one also had a lot, but this one had even more.
Yeah, and this is probably a great time to remind everyone that if you click on any structure and go to its show info window in space, it lists every war that it's involved in. So make sure you're checking those HiSec structures, guys. As of Wednesday, 49 wars had ended so far.
It's a little bit higher now.
Yeah, a little bit higher now, yeah, like almost double. They've ended due to the loss or removal of a HQ structure. And then we've also got the stats of what kind of structures are being used for wars. So you can see here that the most prevalent one is the Astra House and then the Raitaro. So that seems to make sense. A lot of the cheaper structures are being used for war declarations. We then have some Athanors, some Fortizars, one Satir, one Asbel, and then I think the prize definitely goes to the Dracus Fortizar for use as a war HQ.
It's a stylish choice.
It is a very stylish choice. And then we just want to show you guys some of a couple of the stats that we've been looking at, a couple of the metrics we've been tracking that were very kind of indicative before we made these changes of the problems with the war system, and then obviously now we're keeping a close eye on after the changes to make sure that our changes are having a good effect. One of the things we saw a lot was that there were a lot of wars that existed in New Eden that didn't promote conflict. Obviously, with a formalized system like a war system, you want it to be encouraging activity. You want it to be getting people out and fighting. And that was something that the old system was really failing to do in a lot of times. So this was one of the stats we were looking at for this. As you can see at the top there, this is the percentage of non-mutual wars out there that have PvP kills each day. You can see as we started to make these changes in December and then going through to May, this has had a pretty sustained increase so far, which is nice to see.
This is the stat that Berger was talking about, the 40% increase. It's not just 40% increase of the number of wars that have a kill total, it's that have a kill in any given day too. So
yes,
yeah, this is showing what percentage. And we've taken away the label on the y-axis there, but it's a linear scale starting at 0, so people can kind of figure out the ratios from that. Yeah.
But obviously, this stat wouldn't be really very descriptive by itself, because obviously we don't want to have the result of the system being there is much more warfare happening and it's only the aggressors or only the defenders that are now winning. So also one of the things we've been looking at during this time is the ratio of attacker versus defender losses, and we wanted to see that that would start to normalize closer to a more even split between the two. Obviously, aggressors are much more likely to get kills because obviously they're the active participant, they're the ones choosing the war. But we want to see that normalize to a more comfortable level. We can see here that although obviously this graph is very spiky based on lots of different wars that happen, that we're seeing kind of a sustained evening out of this ratio. So lower here is more even, higher would be the attacker getting more kills than the defender. So this is promising. We're obviously still really early on in this process in terms of like watching these metrics. Things like this take a long time to shake out in EVE. There's a long time for the kind of cultures to change and people's experiences, wars to really come to the front. So we're going to be keeping an eye on this stuff going forward. And obviously be hoping to react should anything kind of troubling come out of this. But so far, we're cautiously optimistic that this has done good.
Yeah. One good example of some of the reacting we've already done is this coming Tuesday. We've got some fixes to the flow for applying to be an ally in a war and retracting it. We've improved that UI quite a bit as a follow-up because we just got some good feedback from you guys that needed some work after the initial launch, and got that in coming this upcoming Tuesday.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Now, of course, one of the other big features of the Invasion expansion is the TRIGLAVIAN invasion, unsurprisingly. This has been really cool to watch you guys as you've been engaging with this content and exploring it. As I'm sure most people have realized by now, if you watch, say, the end of the keynote or any of the scope videos or just keep an eye on HiSec, the TRIGLAVIAN collective is invading known space, primarily HiSec with a bit of low-sec as well. So far, Capsuleers have encountered several forms of these TRIGLAVIAN forces. So they've got the roaming NPCs. These guys move all around the invaded systems. They're in varied sizes. Definitely worth being careful when you're in a TRIGLAVIAN invaded system because some of these guys have scramblers and they can do a lot of damage. We've also been seeing minor conduits. For these sites, Concord recommends groups of like 1 to 3 Capsuleers. It is definitely doable with 1, but it gets a lot easier when you have 2 or 3. The major conduits, which have came out a little bit later, for them we're recommending 5 to 6 players. And the world arcs, which just started appearing this last week. And Concord recommends 10 to 15 Capsuleers for them. And with all of these, of course, because it's open world PvE, you're absolutely welcome to bring fewer, you're absolutely welcome to bring more. And the payouts will kind of scale according to that. But these are just a good guideline to get you started. Some of the benefits Capsuleers have already started getting from engaging with this content, the materials, the skills the data cores used to manufacture and invent the new TRIGLAVIAN Tech 2 ship. We'll talk a bit more about those soon, but we've been seeing a lot of people have a lot of fun with those ships. You also get the survey data, the red loot that you can turn in for IFs directly to NPCs. Some new mutaplasmids, which for the first time include damage control mutaplasmids. And faction and officer TRIGLAVIAN modules. So we've already been seeing a few of those things drop, and I think there's going to be some very, very cool fits with TRIGLAVIAN ships with these modules.
Definitely.
Yeah. If you want to really bling out your already very blingy ship.
Who doesn't?
Yeah. We're also seeing DDLP and ISK payouts for pushing back the conduits and world arcs. The LP stores for DED include some of the skill books and data cores that you can get as drops as well, and also includes a bunch of new unique skins. So we've got some skins for some ships across all the different factions, as well as some new high-end skins for the new TRIGLAVIAN Tech 2 ships. So those are the first skins available for those ships. So we've got some stats about the invasion for you guys. Like the other ones, these are as of Wednesday, June 19th. So at this point, this is actually a bit of a newer version of the same stat than what Berger showed you guys at the keynote.
The difference between us taking our stats.
As of Wednesday, the CAPACITOR had killed a little over 900,000 TRIGLAVIAN NPCs. I can say with quite a bit of confidence, you guys are over 1 million now at this point. And Renewing Damavix, as of Wednesday, had died the most times with 172,853 losses just with that one NPC type. Little over 5,000 Zoria's ships have been killed. These are the faction and officer spawns that can be sometimes a little bit rare, but also give you the best loot. And yeah, as of Wednesday, TRIGLAVIANs had killed 15,726 CAPACITOR ships, worth an estimated, as Berger already showed you guys, little over 1.4 trillion-esque. So that number is also even higher at this point now, because this is from a few days ago. You guys, the CAPACITORs definitely have there is positive, I think, total on this. But it's not been without some losses along the way.
I'd be happy with that kill board.
So as I mentioned before, one of the big things that came out of this invasion is a whole new set of ships, including the Nurgle. This is the new TRIGLAVIAN assault frigate, very, very tanky frigate. So we've got some cool little tidbits about this ship and the way you guys have been using it and building it so far. So the first one to get manufactured, it was by this guy, Shezardino of Tranquility Bank. So congratulations to him for getting the first Nurgle produced. As of Wednesday, they'd taken over 12,000 jumps, been involved in a little over 1,000 kills with 43 recorded losses. So very, very solid kill stats there. The first kill that anyone made with a Nurgle was Gackle MDC getting a practice.
Yeah, it was a nice one.
And the first loss of a Nurgle was also killed by Gackle. Using his Nurgle, he killed another Nurgle a little bit later in the same day.
I don't know if you guys noticed, but it was about an hour and a half later. So he had a good night.
This is the Draugr. That's the command destroyer for the TRIGLAVIANs. I know a lot of people have been really enjoying the TRIGLAVIAN ships coming before. This is going to be an upgrade in a lot of ways for small-scale solo PvP, and people have been really enjoying it. The first one manufactured was by the same guy. Shezardino got himself the first Nurgle and the first Draugr produced. Got himself first to market. Probably made some good money on those. The prices are always the highest right at the beginning. So far, as again Wednesday, taken over 5,000 jumps. Got involved in just under 1,000 kills with 25 recorded losses, so even better kill-death ratio. The first kill, St. Lucifer of Thorn Syndicate. Decided to start off his ship nice and easy. Get a Sino Ibis kill.
Solid start.
Just break the seal. And the first loss was killed by Fame of African Atomic. And a big shout out to the guy who lost that first Draugr, who's Jebby, streamer, who's running around with that thing. Definitely some guts on him to be flying a really expensive ship in the early days and risking it. And I think hopefully he had a really good time with it.
Bleeding it out a little bit as well. Nice.
And then this is the Ikatursa, the heavy assault cruiser from the TRIGLAVIANs. The first one of them manufactured was Haller McHolland Arthy, which I'm assuming is an alt.
I think it might be an alt.
Of Moose Army. So far, again, as of Wednesday, they've taken over 14,000 jumps, involved in almost 2,000 kills with about 74 losses. Again, really, really good stats. The first kill was a scimitar. So this guy, Karak Asas of Eclipse Pulsar, got himself a Horde scimitar nice and early on. And the first loss of an Ikatursa was actually by the TRIGLAVIANs taking back what is theirs.
Good job, Trig.
This is a very, very good ship for the Abyss. but even the best chips doesn't guarantee survival. Yeah. The question was, what is the level of the abyss he was in? I'm actually not sure. It is a very good question, though.
No, I'm not sure either.
We could probably find out, but I don't have access to that data here.
Yeah.
We've also been making a whole bunch of UI improvements in the Abyss expansion. So we can go talk a little bit about that.
A little honorable mention, obviously, CCB Burger already talked at length about this, so I'm not going to go into too much detail here, but the agency iteration and redesign was great to see that going out, and did get some really good praise and feedback from people. So yeah, this is a great place, and it's really kind of ties into that idea of us being like providing the tools in game, the information that players need to find the content they want to do and understand the mechanics of this insanely huge, complex game. So that's been really good. It's
been really great to see things like the explanation of factional warfare that's in the agency. If somebody just doesn't know what this FW thing is, it's the best explanation of FW we've ever had in the client. Explanations of abyssal dead space, just all this stuff that you just want to explore what kind of things you can do in EVE, and the Abyss will give you some hints, or the agency will give you some hints.
Yes, and then another UI feature that we brought out during this expansion was the UI pointers. For anyone who hasn't experienced this feature yet, this was a feature that was almost entirely community sourced in terms of suggestions. This was something I know I had long conversations with people at Vegas last year about, and I know CCP Carker was super interested in this idea and took it to completion here. So this is a system where you can create chat links that people can click that would give them a tooltip to show them places in the UI. So you can link people to different neocom buttons, all those kind of things. So it's really, really useful, great teaching tool for kind of early on, but just benefits everyone generally, this kind of feature. So far we've had over 11,000 links have been created and shared, and of those 11,000 links, they've been clicked over 76,000 times. So that's a really good uptake. Yeah, so I have here the most clicked links, the top 3 in ascending order. So we're going to start with the third most clicked links. So if you have any guesses, then please feel free to shout.
What would you guys guess? Yeah.
Character sheet.
We did hear the right answer there. Number 3 is character sheet. Yeah.
So number 3 character sheet with 4,880 clicks. This is an interesting one that's actually promoted some interesting discussion internally as well, because maybe character sheet is one of the few buttons in the Neocom that doesn't really look so much like a button.
Yeah, it's not always clear that that's going to be a button.
So this was this could be potentially a little bit revealing. Maybe we would want to take a further look at that and why that might be something that you need to tell new people about.
It's also something that new players, of course, need to use right away to start their training. So yeah, it's a really, really valuable piece of UI. Yeah.
Any guess for the second most clicked?
I mean,
it's interesting.
I haven't heard the guess yet. But yeah, but this is one of those ones that's going to be surprising at first, and then it'll make sense in a second.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a meta pick. It's the pointer window.
Yeah.
So it just beat the character sheet by a few clicks. This was actually great because, as many of you may know, a lot of devs, and especially QA, will be in the help chats on the day 1 of a release, and it was kind of heartening to see everyone telling everyone about the pointer window by sharing the link to the pointer window.
Hey, there's this really cool thing. It shows you where things are. Here, let me use it to show you where it is. Yeah.
It was great. And I have to tell you right now that number 1 dwarfs the others.
And we've already heard it a couple of times. I think you guys probably have a good idea of what it is.
It is the undone button, I really like this one. This warmed my cold heart. So yeah, 11,260 clicks, already become a meme. This is really funny to see. So yeah, this was really good. I know Carker has been looking for feedback on this feature, and obviously in the future we may find that there are good cases for adding other pointers to this window. Obviously it doesn't yet cover everything that EVE has to offer, but it's a really good tool, and we're so glad that with the suggestions from players, we've managed to get this out to you. I'm sure it was suggested by a lot of people, but a special shout out to Jurius Doctor, who was talking to us a lot about this last year, who was really, really good. So that's the UI pointers. We're really happy with that feature. Now we're moving on from the retrospective section and onto some of the upcoming changes that you're going to see in the next few months of EVE Online. So first off, and this is really jumping off from what CCB Berger was talking about in the keynote today. We've been really interested in looking for changes that are kind of good wins for new players, but also just benefit the wider community of EVE. So we've got a couple of those we'd like to share with you today. One of these, the first one, is coming out on Tuesday of next week. And this is a common thing that's often been requested over the years. Of course, one of the things that you need to know when playing EVE Online is the information about NPCs that you're going to be fighting. And I know people have compensated for this for a long time by using their bios and out-of-game tools. But finally, we're adding an attributes tab to all NPCs in the game. So this, we're really happy to finally get this to you. So this is, it shows you the relative damage types that they deal. It won't give you exact numbers. Obviously, we don't want to give too much away, but it gives you the
and we don't want to overwhelm people too.
Exactly, yeah. And then it gives you the structure, armor, and shield resistances of the target.
The damage dealing numbers includes both guns and missiles that the NPC uses. So if they, like in this case, the Sleepless Defender, it has both a gun and a missile, and this shows you all 4 damage types because 2 of the damage types are done by gun, 2 are done by missile.
Absolutely, yeah. So this is, we're really happy to get these to you finally. This is a long requested, and hopefully will be really valuable for new players and for old players who are like, wait, hang on, what does this NPC do again?
And now you can use your bios for other things.
Yes, imagine the possibilities. So that's really good.
In the discussion for this feature, I've realized what I really want to do is add an NPC that has the inversion of that bio. So it's a bio, it's like a stereotypical player bio, but from an NPC's perspective. So listing all the damage resistances of the different, like Tech 2, Caldari ships, shoot this. Tech 2, Amar ships, shoot this damage.
That would be great.
Yeah.
And then another change that is going to be coming a little bit later, but should be hitting the test servers soon, is another quality of life improvement that we've been working on. So this is an often thing that can be confusing. You know, you're going to reload one of your weapons. You go to the right-click menu. You see this huge list of ammos, and you're like, wait, which one was the long range, and which one was the one that does the kinetic damage? So obviously more of a problem for new players, like sooner or later as a veteran you start to like have these things burned into your brain. But we want to make that easier for everyone. So this is a change that we're working on at the moment, and it looks a little bit something like this. So this is still work in progress, and we're really interested to hear your feedback about obviously exactly how this window looks. But thank you. But the two notes here are that it shows the top 2 damage types that each ammunition does, starting with the highest damage type, and then some of you may have already noticed that it is also sorting it from top to bottom by range. So yeah, we hope this is going to be really useful for people, and you know, benefits new people but benefits everyone. Range bonus modifiers, that is a good point.
Yeah, you get a bit of that, of course, with the sorting by range. But yeah, it would be cool to be able to put even more information in. Yeah.
Yes.
You got to figure out the ways to show that nice and cleanly. Though.
Exactly. It's always a balance between overloading people and giving them exactly the information we want. We're not going to take any questions just now, but you can talk to us.
There'll be tons of opportunities for you to talk to us.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a couple of quality of life things that are coming soon. This one, like I say, will be on the test servers in the next few weeks, and we hope to get your feedback on this.
Yeah. Now, a couple of other things that we've got coming up for the relative near future are some balance improvements. Oh, yes. And if you guys watch the keynote, you have a little bit of a hint of the first thing I'm going to be talking about, which is the VEXOR Navy issue. Now, this is actually a picture of a normal VEXOR, but it's such a cool picture that I decided to use it. But they look pretty similar. So we're making some changes to the VEXOR Navy issue. This is a ship that is one of the most dominant ships in the game in its role. Obviously, the role that it's really good at is relatively low attention ratting, thanks to being very high damage with drones, and being very easy to like 100 MN fit, very cheap, very easy to train to. Those are all very good things, but when one ship has them all to that extreme, it means that you don't get really good options of what ships to use. There isn't really a good decision you can make about using different ships because one of them is just kind of the best. It's also one of the most controversial ships for this very reason. And yeah, at the moment, like I mentioned, very good riding DPS, low cost, low attention required. Those are all things that attract people to the ship. The primary goal of the changes we have in the pipeline for this ship is to improve the balance between the different riding ship options, give you guys some good reasons to try out some other ships. And we've, in the past with the VEXOR Navy issue, just made some direct nerfs to it. Those have often ended up just leaving it in its one strong role, but making it really bad for anything else, so that it would be getting more shoved into the niche rather than getting a ship that maybe is a bit more well-rounded. So we're kind of building it back up from the ground. We're going to try something completely different with it, and we're going to give it a whole new role. So we're refocusing the VNI strengths. The new version of VNI is going to have a combination of drone and gun DPS, very similar to the normal VEXOR. It's going to have very high tracking bonuses and active armor tanking bonuses. But it's going to do a lot less drone damage. You'll be able to combine drone and gun damage to do as much damage as before, but of course that then means more attention required. You maybe have to be a bit closer range. And you get benefits like it's going to be a bit more agile. It's going to be have much better tank with the active armor bonus. So the next screen here is going to have the stats. I'm not expecting you guys to memorize all this. It's mostly for the people taking screenshots at home. What I will point out to you guys, really important stuff, the drone bandwidth in this version of the design drops to 75. So it's the same drone bandwidth as a normal VEXOR. It's getting an extra turret and getting a turret damage bonus. Getting a 10% tracking bonus to turrets and a 10% tracking bonus to drones. So this is going to be a very high tracking ship, which is a common theme among Navy ships. So it's really cool to have that niche that it's going to be extremely good at that role. And it's going to be the first Galente cruiser with a active armor rep bonus, which is kind of mind-blowing that we haven't had one before, because every other size category of ships has it. But yeah, it's a Galente theme that hadn't been stretching in cruisers before, but now it is, thanks to the new VEXOR Navy issue. So this is something that is going to be on the test server for you guys to try out pretty soon. And we're really interested to hear at this event what you guys think about this. We're really interested to hear on the test server and on the forums. Once you get and try it out, what do you think about this ship? What are you going to use it for? This ship, I really believe, is going to be very powerful. But it's going to be very powerful for something that's very different than what it is right now. So we understand that's going to be a pretty jarring transition for some folks. But it's still going to be a ship, I think, that can be very exciting. So another thing that we're working on that's somewhat related to the VNI is some alpha clone drone skill changes. So this is a targeted set of changes to the alpha clone set that's going to reduce the DPS of ratting with alpha clone characters. And the real big goal here is to help the war on bots. Anything we can do that reduces the strength a little bit and balances out alpha characters for these kind of botting, these things that are very attractive for people who are botting. So things like the level 4 courier missions, things like nullsec, VNI, or drone ratting. If we can make them a bit less powerful for alphas, it makes the bans more effective whenever we do ban people. Because it means that if we ban an Omega account, then they have to, if they spin up another account, they have to go through more effort to get that spun back up. Alphas can be very widely distributed, and they can move across a lot of characters. So yeah, this is just going to tone it back a bit. They're still going to be very strong. You're still going to be able to do a lot with an alpha in this, but we're just going to tone it back a bit. So the goal here, we're going to be reducing heavy drone operation in the alpha set from 4 to 3, medium drone operation from 5 to 4, and drone interfacing from 4 to 3. So it's one level down of each of those skills. If you currently have those skills in an alpha character, it'll be just like if you had trained some skills as an Omega and dropped down to alpha. They'll be locked until you go up to Omega set. And for new alpha characters, they'll be completely blocked until, again, you upgrade.
Yeah, so as always, this is just trying to raise the bar for those botters and just make it harder and harder for them or more penalties for them.
Yep. And as always, the war on bots is a multi-pronged effort with a whole lot of people across CCP working on it. And like CCP Burger said, big thanks to everyone who's been reporting bots and helping out with that. That's a very valuable thing, so keep it up. Another balance change that we've been talking about for a long time now, that I want to remind you guys again. This is some new pirate implants. So the last time we discussed this was immediately after Amsterdam. We talked about the fact that the plan is being brought back at Amsterdam and mentioned a summer time frame, and we're in summer now, and that is still on track. So the goal is to start public testing in the next couple of weeks for a maybe late summer potential release if everything goes well. We'll see how the feedback goes. I want to give a huge thanks to everyone who's been participating in the feedback thread on the forums that we put up after Amsterdam. We put up some proposed stats there, and you guys had some really good suggestions. And so we've made some changes to the plan based on the feedback in that thread that I want to talk about right now. So one of them is we're going to be toning back the initial launch of the shield slaves a little bit. So the high-grade set will give about 43.5% bonuses instead of the 53.6 that you get from a armor slave. We're going to reevaluate this after launch, see how it goes. If we need to buff it, we can buff it. If we need to nerf it, we can nerf it. But start off a little bit slower, especially because you get essentially a dual benefit from a shield slave versus the armor ones, because you also get benefits to regen. Yeah. We're also planning on buffing the Savior set. This is the new Angel set that buffs the cycle time of the sub-capital remote logistics modules, both shield and armor. And we're just going to give it a stronger bonus. So the high-grade set will be 26.84% reduction in cycle time versus 28.7%. And we're also planning on buffing some of the older sets that haven't been performing very well, specifically in this case, the Halo and Centurion sets. The Halo has really been struggling in competing with the Snakes. The Snakes also make it easier to tank, and then they also give you, of course, the mobility benefits of the speed, getting yourself in positions you need to get to. So we're going to just increase the strength of the Halo a little bit. And for the Centurion set, these are the ones that provide E-War optimal range. We're planning on giving them E-War fall off as well. So now a couple other things that we've talked about a bit before with balance, but I want to bring up again that's still on the short-term roadmap. We're planning on making some changes to shield and capacitor regen modules, significantly buffing them while also giving them stacking penalties. So the goal here is to make sure that the modules are valuable to be used in small numbers without having to build your entire ship around them. You don't need to use 8 slots of shield regen to get a good shield regen fit, but without being too overpowered, of course, with those really big slots. It's really the same reason that we have stacking penalties in any modules, right? If you didn't have stacking penalties on damage modules, like there was in some of the early days of EVE, then you got in a situation where you either have to kind of fit 8 damage modules or 0. Yes. And there's nothing really all that useful in between. But having stacking penalties and stronger individual modules gives you some more interesting fitting choices. So we've got some more details of that that'll be coming soon once we get closer to public testing. And we're also going back to module tiericide. So this is a plan that we've been working on for quite a long time. We made a lot of progress over the past couple of years, but then basically being pulled away to some of the priorities meant that the plan stalled for a little bit. But we're bringing it back. And this improves balance and also, very crucially, makes the game a lot easier to understand for new players. This is still, again, it's another great example of something that both helps new players understand the game and just makes the game better for everyone else. Yeah. If a new player has fewer options, these options that have a hard time like figuring out what is the benefit of using a Meta 3 versus a Meta 4 module, and the prices sometimes just don't map out to anything useful. The new module tier-sided modules, there's going to be fewer options, but all the options are actually valuable.
Yeah, so it's changing it from a system where there was always there was no no fun choice there. Yeah. There was just like, this was the best one, and you should always use that.
Yeah, so now you have different strengths and weaknesses of every meta module. And yeah, this is something we've been getting great feedback about from the modules that we've tier-sided so far. And the plan is to continue working on it until we get them all done. So these are the modules that we're looking at for the next rounds. Just to let you guys know, this is the kind of the short list. So we're talking armor repairs and shield boosters, obviously incredibly crucial modules. Hardeners and other resistance modules, cap boosters and cap transfers. So this is the short list for the modules that you should expect to see tier-sided next. And then another long time work in progress.
Oh yes,
still is the Starbase phase out. So again, we just wanted to give you guys an update on this, remind you that it is still in progress, it's still coming. The next steps are some more reimbursement, so increasing the reprocessing outputs and reimbursing the blueprints for some of the phased-out modules. We're currently planning on getting the next round of this out in the next few months, so we'll get more details as we get a bit closer. And there's also one related to Starbase concept that we're going to be talking about in the next section as well. Yeah. So that's something that may come, may not, but we wanted to get your feedback on it. And I'll use that as the segue to the next section.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're now into the potential section of this talk. So as we've obviously disclaimed before, this is speculative. These are things that we're working on internally as prototypes or early concepts that we think have come far enough now for us to have value in talking to you guys and getting your feedback. So starting those conversations. So one thing connected to the STARBASE phase out has always been, as I'm sure a lot of you know, we're always trying to make sure that we're reaching parity with the new structures. That was a thing we talked about a lot, making sure that the new structures have the same kind of services as the old structures, and I think we've done a really good job in getting to the point where that's the case in terms of distinct pieces of functionality. But there are also sometimes use cases that we feel that obviously yourselves and we feel have been left behind by the phase out of Starbases. And one thing that we hear a lot is the idea that of the differences between tethering and a force field. Specifically in the case of being able to use a force field to keep yourself safe for a short amount of time, or keep yourself out of trouble in a larger ship. Things like that, that tethering doesn't really offer, because in the tethering system, people can bump you off the tether and bump you out of range. So one prototype that we have in the works internally that we've been messing around with is this concept that we're currently calling structured mooring. So this is actually, and you mentioned before, this was what tethering was
There was,
called
yeah,
once.
some early versions of the design that were called mooring back in the day. Yeah.
That's right, yeah. So as I said, there are some specific use cases where the force fields were safer than an upwell tether, and obviously for smaller upwell structures where you can't dock large ships, that always meant there was a big kind of drop-off in safety between the huge structures and the small structures. So this would, the way we're looking at this now is mooring would be a new optional tether state. You can kind of think of it in terms of functionality working in a way similar to the safe log-off system, in that you would get into tether range and you would activate the mooring in some way that would take some amount of time. And then the crucial part is that while you're moored, you're prevented from being bumped out of tether range. So you can still be bumped around. You're not like hard locked, but anytime that a velocity would be applied to your ship that would make you leave tether range, we would just cancel that velocity out. So this is a concept that, like we say, is obviously very early on. We're really interested to hear your feedback, but we're kind of optimistic that this could provide an answer to some of those problems that people have had, especially with big ships and small structures. Yeah.
And we definitely want to hear your feedback about it, what you like about the idea, what you don't like about the idea. And as mentioned, there's an internal prototype on it. We might be able to get that onto some kind of test server for people to play around with. But again, no promises at this point of when it might release, if ever.
Absolutely. And then we have one more thing that we're interested to talk to you guys about. But I think this needs to start with a short story. So, as you can imagine, over the years, we get a lot of long-standing requests that people want. People often, bring things up at every FanFest, every time we meet them. It's super great to always get that feedback. And there's a lot of those features that we love internally that we would love to work on, and we often say we'd love to work on. Now, Masterplan's memory may not be perfect, but he seems to remember that in 2012, the first year that we had FanFest in the Harper in Reykjavik, he was given this. So this was a bottle of Reykjavik vodka, a local Icelandic vodka, and the idea was that we weren't allowed to open it until we'd completed a certain feature. Now, 5 or 6 years later,
it's still sitting in the 5.0 team area.
It's still sitting on the shelf, still there as a reminder. And in more recent years, we've had some other reminders. Some of those given to us at events. And I know after some of the events last year, I think these were given out to a lot of people with the express order to mail them to CCP. So don't worry, we got them. We got a lot of them. So these are really great. So we get it. You guys really, really want Alliance bookmarks. And it's something that a lot of us internally would love as well. So one concept that I'm sure we've talked about with you guys before that we work with internally in CCP is this idea of 20% time, which is the idea that any developer can take 20% of their time to do things like learn through learning courses to improve their work, or specifically work on things that are not their day job, not things, so passion projects, things that they think would add value to the company or to the game. And one of our devs, CCP Habakkuk, has been working really hard on this concept internally. I have to give credit to CCP Goliath for this glorious pun, but he refers to it as CCP Habakkuk marks. Habakkuk, I wasn't aware that I was going to say that today, by the way, so I hope he's enjoying the stream. So yeah, all credit to Goliath for that one. But probably a more appropriate name for this prototype would be shareable bookmarks. So obviously, you guys want Alliance bookmarks, and one of the big things that we've had a problem with that over the year is problems with tying those things into something like the Alliance system that isn't super formalized in the code base.
With corporations, you have roles. It's very easy to determine who's allowed to edit, who's allowed to delete bookmarks. Alliances, it's not quite the same. The structures are very different. So that was always one of the biggest challenges.
So what we did is we went away from that idea entirely, and we've done one better. So this prototype is, like I say, all work in progress, to be confirmed, very much rough at this time.
We cannot promise this will ever release. There's still a lot of things that need to be figured out.
Yes, it's still very early on, but essentially this will be a replacement and an extension of the Personal Corp Alliance Coalition bookmark system. It will be not just Alliance, it will be much further than that. So essentially, the way this works would be that you would have bookmark folders, formerly what you would think of as groups, so like the corp bookmarks and the personal bookmarks, that can be shared with anyone using access lists. These can contain... So these folders contain subfolders, just like the folder system that you have now for bookmarks. And that means that using a new type of access list that would be specifically for bookmarks, you can, or a new type of profile that would be specifically for bookmarks, you can share these with your fleet, with your corp, with your alliance, with your coalition. You can be as...
like 3 friends if you want,
yep.
whatever you're looking to do.
Or everyone in the world. So the basics of how this would work is that you could add an access list to give people access to the bookmark folder, and then they can actively subscribe to the folder should they choose. There'll obviously be limits on the amount of folders you can have yourself, how many folders you can subscribe to, those kind of things.
They'll need both the access to be able to view it with the ACL and also the link too.
Yes.
So what you can do is if you wanted to give people access to not very OPSEC bookmarks on kind of an ad hoc basis, you could make a folder public, but then just give the link to some people. It's kind of like if you have a Google Doc that's public to anyone who has the link.
Yes.
So that's what we'd expect to be a potentially pretty common use case.
So we think that would be great for these more like ad hoc groups, things like NIPSI groups and things like that, that kind of form on the fly, things that are less formalized in a corp structure. But this also would obviously work for alliance access lists, for coalition access lists, really whoever you want. The way that the access list levels would work, according to how we're currently looking at this, like I say, all subject to change, would be that there will be 4 levels. There will be the view level, which would allow you to view the bookmark folder and walk to the bookmarks. There will be the use level, which would allow you to add bookmarks to the folder and edit and delete your own bookmarks. There will be a manage level, which will allow you to edit and remove bookmarks and add and remove folders. And then there will be the admin level, the top level, that would allow you to change the ACL. It would allow you to rename the folder or delete the folder entirely. And then, of course, since we're looking at building a whole new system here, we're obviously looking at all the other things that are often requested about bookmarks over the years. So we're also looking into the idea of something like bookmark expiry, which is often requested from, especially from people like wormholers, having the ability to have a bookmark expire after a day or a couple of days, things like that.
So this will hypothetically just be an optional thing. When you create a bookmark, you can decide do you want it to be a permanent one, or do you want it to be a 2-day long one, or whatever period you choose.
Exactly right. So I think this is this has great potential to be one of those features that can kind of be molded by you guys in whatever way you feel see fit to use it. That's why the access lists, I think, are so powerful. Like Fuzzy alluded to, this has still a lot of testing in its future. This hasn't gone through any sort of kind of performance testing or optimization yet. So and the prototype is still very early. But this, as you can imagine, this is a big feature and would have a lot of interest for you guys. So it would be really interesting to hear you guys' feedback if you see any issues with this. And we'd love to be able to, at some point, put this on a test server for some time and let you guys really hammer it and break it as much as possible.
If we get a chance to put this on a test server, we'll definitely need all of your help to stress test it, get a good performance testing baseline for it. That's going to be one of the things that we'd have to figure out before this would hypothetically release. So we'll keep you guys up to date. But if this goes on to, say, duality at some point in an early, rough prototype form, we'll definitely need all of your help.
Yes. So that's this prototype for you, and that's all that we have for you today. Rather than kind of taking questions now, what we'll do is we'll just point you guys to our glorious CCP AMA tomorrow. We'll both be there, and obviously you can also grab us in the corridors all of today and tomorrow.
Party tonight too.
Exactly, yeah. Come bend our ear at the party. As you've seen from a couple of things in this talk, many a good feature comes out of a drunken conversation at a EVE event party. So please come and talk to us. But above all, thanks so much for coming to listen to our presentation today.
Yeah, thanks everyone.